it says, if you encounter the sarcasm tag, take a deep breath and move along is what it says. Dude, I was like,
oh, wow.
How is the HTML5 spec actually an engaging read? Like, whew.
Wow.
This has been a whirlwind, man. It really
this year cannot slow down, can
it? No, it can't, dude. We here we are. We are in Miami for recording the second episode. I think this one's going to air first, though.
Yeah.
We recorded an episode day before yesterday with Yusuf Samuda. And man, is that a good episode. You guys are in for a good one next week.
Oh, man. It was funny because I was joking with some people. They were like, oh, were you on Yusuf's podcast yesterday? I was like, yeah, I was. I was the guest, actually.
Dude, seriously, it was so good. And just a lot of really high technical bugs, a lot of great discussions surrounding client-side constraints in the browser and that sort of thing. So really looking forward to airing that episode. And I got to re-listen to it myself.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's so awesome, like, seeing somebody who has... I mean, it feels like a niche, right? But it's just like web hacking, right? Like he has managed to like corner this niche of like ATOs and post message and like deep JavaScript bugs, and you do that too, man. Like, don't get me wrong, like,
dude. But, yeah. So I guess some of the things that I kind of want to talk about is takeaways from this live hacking event. The target is public. It is Capital One.
Yep.
And it's been a really fun event. A lot of client-side bugs have rolled out, especially for me. So there's a couple of good takeaways there, and one of those is that I wasn't paying enough attention to client-side routing. I don't think before this specific event, and like I've been predicting over the past couple months, or even maybe a year at this point since we started the podcast. Client-side path traversal is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow as a bug class. And we've seen that at this event. We've seen it at past events. Paying attention to client-side routing is going to be the new CSRF in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there are so many levels of complexity now with just like browsers, right? How the browser is handling requests that you are going to have to rely on client-side path traversal at a certain point, right? Like CSRF, within the next 10 years could not even exist anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be real tricky. When the browsers remove the same site lacks default sort of caveat that they have, the top level navigation with a post request within 2 minutes of the cookie being set, when that goes away, it's going to be very hard to implement CSRFs. By default, it's going to be safe, which is great for the community, but a little bit sad for us.
Yeah.
And so definitely those client-side path traversals are going to continue to be a thing. And I've seen this event and in past events as well, a lot of really interesting stuff surrounding chaining those client-side path traversals with open redirects, and then actually being able to control content that's being placed into the application, that the application expects to be secure,
right?
You know, they're trusting their API response, requests, right. and you're going to get stuff back, and sometimes it's HTML in a JSON blob, and then they literally just dump it right into the DOM, and you've just got XSS. So, especially when it can be chained with an open redirect, a lot of impact there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So where did you spend most of your time on the event?
Man, I jumped all over the place. There was a couple things in scope that went out of scope by a certain time. So I went and focused on the things that were time sensitive first, and then for the rest of the event, man, I was just kind of chugging away on client side stuff. I've got 40. Bless my heart. I've got 40 bugs right now.
40,
and I was up till 3 a.m. last night. Finding another high and getting it submitted and getting it fully exploited.
That's
so
awesome.
I am toasty right now, but I'm expecting some good results. I'm a little bit nervous right now though, man, because it's like the event has officially closed and they've only paid $150K, I think, the last time we looked at it. And they might be paying them out right now as we're recording.
Yeah,
$150K.
Yeah.
So I think that they're lagging a little bit behind on this, so I'm interested to see how it turns out tonight.
Yeah, I have a feeling it'll probably end at least 300 or 400K total bounties.
That's what I think, at least.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is there was so many dupes, especially on those time sensitive areas. Like you said, like
There
I remember
was.
I checked on the first day and there was like 5 or 10 people who had 25 reports in.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I need a new time zone. Wow, this is crazy.
It's crazy. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the live hacking event sort of setup, how it works in these competition is there's a dupe period for the first week of hacking. So you've got all these top hackers hacking on one target, and then the bounties are inflated, and then but obviously there's going to be a lot of dupes because a lot of the top hackers are going to find similar bugs. So within that first week, all of the bounties that are dupes are all split evenly between all the reporters.
Right.
So it's very important within that first week to find all of the things that you can find that you think are not specifically, Rhino Raider bugs or Techno Geek bugs, right? And get those submitted, get those in before the due period ends, and then you can kind of focus on the bigger brain stuff, right?
Yeah. And I did a similar approach. So there was a flag that they had set out in the mobile apps.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's my jam. So let me go.
All right, here we go.
Yeah. So I went in on that. I got that super quick. I think I got it. It hasn't been paid out yet.
You got it first.
I'm pretty sure I got it.
Yeah.
And then I kind of made it was a mistake, but I didn't know it at the time, where I spent most of my time on the mobile apps. And again, because my niche, right? So I was talking with Rezo. He was like, you know what, dude, just do it. Like focusing, go in, it'll be worth it. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I started tracking my time this time. This was the first event I tracked the amount of time I hacked.
Oh man, you were going seriously.
I was going serious. Honestly, it really helped with I don't know, maybe it's just my ADHD, but having a timer where if I feel like I've been doing something for a bit and just being able to look up and see, I'm 2 hours in or 3 hours in or whatever, it's good to feel like I'm making progress and not just I'm sitting still.
Yeah, there's something about putting the hours in that's gratifying in and of itself.
Right.
Yeah.
But unfortunately I didn't find anything else other than that. I found one low and it got close and
the mobile app was tight, man.
It was very
tight. And even across the other mobile hackers, I think there were only 1 or 2 other accepted reports on the mobile app scope. Yep. So that's that was definitely sad to see.
Yeah, they had a ton of obfuscation on it. I spent a bunch of time getting around that.
Oh yeah, was that what it was?
For sure, once I get past this obfuscation, good, I'm gonna find all the bugs as soon as I get past this. I got past it at hour 6, and
oh my gosh,
it was just testing endpoints, looking for other entry points, looking for anything, and it just nothing panned out. I even pulled out the full list of endpoints. I sent him over to Rezo. He was like, all right, let me fuzz these. Nothing. So
wow, dude. Yeah, that's just how the cards lie. Yeah. And I know we were gonna do a what did you put in the chat?
Hacker therapy,
hacker therapy session, man. So how did that make you feel, Joel,
dude,
in that moment?
I'm not gonna lie, I was like in the heat of the moment, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm done with bug bounty.
Dude, I know, man. I always feel that way, and then it's it pulls you back in to, when you find something that, and we've got a bug, we've got an ATO on a specific site that we need to go finish up.
Yeah.
So maybe after this event, we'll go do that, and that'll kind of swing us back around into the proper
gotta get that momentum
mindset,
going. Oh man.
Mindset, grind set.
Yeah, dudes. But I will say the nice thing about tracking the time, I felt because I knew how many hours I put in, I felt less bad when I decided it was time to cut my losses. And so when I was like, okay, I'm at 25 hours on this mobile app, I'm done on the mobile app. I'm not spending more time on this. If I'm going to hack more on this target, I'm going to look at other scope assets because this is no longer worth my time. If I'm going to find anything, it's not going to be on these apps.
Yeah. I've got a cool story about learning how to cut your losses. This event, I found what should have been a bug but was not a bug. There was a specific spot in one of the applications where it was taking a parameter via the hash, and it was taking that parameter. It was actually doing a domain validation on a different parameter and then using this parameter as the API host.
Okay.
For their fetch stuff that they would do.
I had a very similar bug like this in the past. Actually.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
And but here's the thing with that. So typically this would be an easy dub, but there's a CSP in place, a connect source CSP. Okay. Oof. So that means I can't connect to any website that is not what they had defined. They've got one website in scope. They've got self, and then they had star.googleapis.com.
Okay. That's pretty broad.
That is. So I was looking into that. I was like, okay, what can I do with that? And lo and behold, the storage API for, or the way you access Google storage buckets,
Yep.
the S3 buckets of Google Cloud, is on storage.googleapis.com. I was like, great, I'll just upload a JSON file to a bucket, and then if I need to do multiple requests, I can like get the timing right, and I can change out the file and that sort of thing.
So far, nothing has gone wrong. So
no. You just
this is great.
Listen, but that's the problem, right? Because I go all the way down this path, and then it doesn't work at the end. So I'll tell you. So I plug it in there, give it the host, it sends out the request, boop boop. Access control headers need to be in place. So you need access control allow origin header. I'm like, okay, shit.
On the bucket?
On the bucket. So I was like, okay, Google storage bucket, access control header, right?
Oh no.
Okay, well, first, actually, I had a different idea. First, I was like, okay, maybe I can just use a data URL.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Actually, yeah, why not?
Right? And I was like, okay, great. And I opened up my browser and I said, fetch data URL, and it worked. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that I could use a data URL with fetch, and I can specify the content type and everything. I was like, this is really cool.
Where do you specify content type?
In the data URL itself, it's like data, colon, and then it says like text.
Oh, like text.
Okay. Or application JSON or whatever, and then basic SQL.
And it applies when it fetches it too.
Yeah, and it does. It's clean. CSP doesn't like data, of course. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was really interested to that like, oh wow, I can use a data URI with fetch. So anyway, then I go to the bucket solution, right? And so, okay, I need to solve the access control allow origin header problem. So I start Googling that, and there's a way to set it for the bucket. I'm like, hell yeah. So I go ahead and upload the thing, and I'm like, all right, I got it set to star, whatever, no problem.
Okay.
And I set it up, and it's boop boop. This fetch request is with mode send credentials. So there needs to be an access control allow credentials true header in the response. And you can't set that for Google storage buckets. But wait, Joel, it gets better, man. Okay? Listen to this, dude. Then I'm like, shit, how do I fix this problem? So I start researching. Also on storage.googleapis.com is the JSON API for the storage interface. So you can get like metadata on objects and stuff like that. Okay. That one does return, it echoes the origin into the access control allow origin header.
Make that work.
and it has access control allow credentials true. So it's like, this is perfect. But how do I get my arbitrary data in there, right? Because it's the metadata URL. It's not actually, or it's the metadata endpoint. It's not the actual content. Right. Well, there's this one weird parameter that says, instead of giving the metadata for this object, return the actual object content. And I'm like, yes, this is perfect. I got it. And there's a sync too. There's a window location.href sync that's right after the call. So it literally, if it has a JSON attribute, then it just puts it right into window location.href. I'm like, hell yeah, this is XSS. Let's go.
I mean, at this point so far, are you pranking me?
It's like ups and downs. No, it's ups and downs. Ups and downs, man. And then guess what? I send it in, JavaScript URI, boop boop, CSP script source. Can't execute anything. I don't know why I didn't see it. I went down this whole thing. There's no script source, and it's a dead end. You can't do anything with it. There's no JavaScript you can execute. I've tried this and that and the other thing. Oh, here's the other thing. It caches the API host in session storage. Okay. And then it will use that for another request that has sensitive information in the URL. So I'm like, great, I can link that. But when it sends the sensitive information via the URL, it clears session storage. So it's like, in session storage, it's supposed to be per tab. I figured out a way to get that to not work, right? To cache mine and then use it on the page. Okay. It's still freaking, they clear session storage, so I can't leak the data. It's useless.
Wow. Okay, I was gonna ask a couple things if you had tried
salty, man.
Before I found out about the CSP. I was gonna say, I was gonna wonder if you had tried redirects for the storage bucket thing to see if you could maybe redirect it to the URL you wanted or wrap it or something. But no.
Now the connect source is gonna block anything, and there's no way for you to make that initial connection because you can't make CSP
right.
Dot or a storage dot.
What about like CSS, like CSS exfiltration?
Yeah, but we have no. there's no way to inject. So then there's also sort of a way for you to get HTML injection, but it's in Angular's HTML injection thing. So it's just totally it's
Wow.
impossible, man. I've had 6 people look at it at the event, and
Wow.
all of them are extremely talented client-side hackers. Not a man. Dang. So
Oh,
anyway, man,
so disappointing.
I'll be honest with you. I sunk probably 8 hours into that endpoint. And that was a mistake. You know, I got the full length that I made it in the end 3 hours in probably. And I made that extra hop to, oh, okay, maybe I can leak data via this, poisoning the API host in session storage, maybe 5 or 6 in, so maybe that, if that clear session storage thing wasn't there, then maybe I could have actually gotten the exploitation. But one of the hardest things in bug bounty for me, man, is knowing when to cut your losses.
For real.
And I just suck at that. And maybe sometimes that makes us better hackers, and maybe that makes us pops bugs, but I think a lot of time it makes us lose a lot of time.
Well, right. And like, it's a trade-off, right? Because there's always like, if you cut your losses too early, then you definitely could miss something.
Well,
there's
you guarantee the miss.
Right. Like, I mean, assuming something's there, but yes, like the miss is significantly more, but it like equally, if you keep hacking, the miss also, like the other scope and the other things that you haven't looked at, like that miss is still there. And I've been thinking about this because I don't know if I should adjust anything, and I don't think I should, like, because I don't think I did anything wrong. Maybe I should have cut losses maybe a little earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have spent less time on like the nitty gritty of the obfuscation and stuff. But
what I would say, Joel, is 25 hours is, I mean, you got a full-time job as well.
Yeah.
So that I wasn't really considering that. I 25 hours is not where I cut my losses in normally in these sort of situations. But I didn't really take into consideration the fact that you have, limited time constraints with your full-time job.
With full-time job, I was doing about 6 hours a day.
Yeah, that's too much. Yeah.
So, it is what it is. You can't win them all. I think I've said that to like 10 people at this event. So, it happens. And I think I'm just going to apply the same, go deep, right? Like that's what we always say, go deep.
Keep going deep.
Just keep going deep and notes, right? Like I was taking a ton of notes, and by the end of it, I was looking through my notes and I was like, I have nothing else to look at here.
Dude, we need to find that. Every time I say going deep in with the bug bounty context, I think of that tweet by Tom Nom Nom. You know the one I'm talking about?
No.
So dude, somebody like tweeted out I'll have to see if I can find it, but it's like one of the most legendary tweets I've ever seen. Someone was like, all right, bug bounty tips. Go deep, read the manual, push hard, something like that. And then Tom comment and a bunch of other ones that are in line. And then Tom comments, he's like, this is also my approach to sex.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, dude, you're nuts. This is such, and then it ratioed hard,
That's
of course,
so funny.
like it's just amazing. I think it was Hack Luke.
Dude, that's so funny.
But yeah, man, getting intimate with the application, as we say, is pivotal to these sort of things. So yeah, and I will say, man, I am intimate with many of the applications right now, and I'm really looking forward to not looking at a computer screen for a little while. I'm going out of the country right after this, which will be great. Good time to relax, and I'm just hoping these bugs pay out the way they should.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I heard what your total is right now versus what you were expecting, and I was like,
it's gonna be a little tricky, man. I'm looking at my phone because I'm like, and then the thing is about the events too is, they'll make like a ching sound if you're downstairs, in the hacking room, and you'll get the pings and stuff like that. So it's very like dopamine heavy,
Yeah, very anticipatory.
Yeah. So any other cool takeaways from the event for you? The only other thing that comes to my very tired brain right now is I was very impressed with a specific set of business logic bugs from Douglas Day, Archangel, at this event. He really took his methodology. He normally collabs. We did an episode with him. We called him the king of collaboration. He did a solo event this time.
Yep.
And I was talking to him about some of his bugs, and they're just elegant,
Yeah.
and it exemplifies perfectly the idea of understanding what it exemplifies two things: understanding the business and hitting them at their pain points, and really setting a goal for the application. The other one is setting a goal for the application and just brooding it into having that goal.
Yeah, dude.
Which is something that we talk about a good bit. So I think he did a really good job with this. I'm hoping he gets the payouts that he deserves at this specific one.
Yeah.
But we've got time to argue afterwards as well. So if it doesn't happen event day, it's sad because you don't make it on the podium or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's always time to debate afterwards.
Yeah.
Too, so.
Yeah. I will say, so I also did this event basically solo. And that was the first solo event I've done in a long time. I usually lean pretty heavy on collaborations because I really like collaborations and I think they're good opportunities. But to be quite honest, when you do a lot of collaboration, it's really just like sitting around waiting for somebody else to come up with something and being like, hey, I have this thing. And you're like, I can help with that.
I think for you, one of the areas you shine is as an exploitationist. Like there's a lot of things that there's a different skill set from, exploiting a bug, exploiting a weird functionality, and finding that weird functionality, finding the asset that's going to give you weird function. It's not necessarily recon, right? Recon could be finding the asset and that sort of thing. Understanding what is weird in an application really requires a more intimate knowledge of the application.
Yeah.
And then you take that and you say, hey, Joel, this is why it's weird. This is what it would be cool if it could do. And then, when you have strong exploitationists like yourself and that you can collaborate with, it works out really well.
Yeah.
But when you spend a long time on collaboration, some of those other skills get a little rusty too.
Yep.
Which is tricky and something you got to go in and be like, okay, I'm self-aware of that. I got to shake that off and be a little bit more resilient in that regard.
Right.
Yeah,
it's going to take more time. It's going to, yeah, absolutely. I dealt with a lot of that during this event.
Mm.
And the goal thing, I think that's one area I probably could have done better. I didn't set as many goals this event, which I wish I had. I set a couple like soft goals. Like I definitely set more soft goals than I did hard goals. And I wish I would have gone for more like hard goals, like really go after, like, I want to do this thing. I want an ATO or I want to bypass whatever, like, and just go at that. I think it might have helped a little bit with the focus and sort of the direction of my hacking.
Yeah.
And the one soft goal that I did pursue, it didn't really pan out for, it was just implemented securely. So
sometimes you run into that, and
it just happens.
You did snag the flag.
Yeah.
Which is good. So you at least got something to show for it. But yeah, that goal-oriented mentality is important. And then you've also got some, I don't know if you want to talk about the thing, but you've also got something else going on right now. It's taking a lot of time.
Selling a house, buying a house. Yeah, I'm moving across the country. So
I'm getting them on the East Coast.
So we're going back to East Coast. We're going to record in the same time zone eventually.
It's going to be clutch. So. And actually, there's direct flights between where I live and where Joel lives twice per day.
Yep.
So we could hop down for an episode, hop back, and it'd only be like $100.
Yep.
So that would be super clutch. I'm very excited to have you back on the East Coast.
Yes. So I'm looking forward to like 4 to 5 months from now when hopefully everything is a lot more chill. I moved in. I am not dealing with constant chaos. This whole year has just been crazy, man. From plumbing problems to house sales to just nonstop. So
yeah,
I'm hoping this is the bad karma side of the year, and then the rest, it can only go up from here, right? So
so another thing that comes to mind about this event is when you're working on a company that's very big and has a lot of different components and pieces to it, looking at auth is absolutely essential. Understanding the auth flow very intimately is super important, because especially when you've got companies that are buying other companies and sort of duct taping them into their own infrastructure, that auth piece is really really tricky to implement properly, and there's also a lot of things you can do with open redirects and with client-side stuff, and can I leak this specific piece of information by any of 6 different ways, and if you can, then you've really got a serious bug.
Well, I know you, you said I'm a good exploitationist. You're at least as good as I am, if not better, bro, because
thanks, man.
To be honest, like, in order to exploit those kind of bugs, you have to have an intimate level of understanding of the application.
You got to have gadgets too.
Right, because like you might look at the auth implementation and be like, this is just standard OAuth, like I don't know what to make of this, right? But like, you have to try stuff. You have to know what to try. You have to have sort of that playbook of things to be testing, things that you've seen before, things that you've seen around the app as well, like other areas of login that you might be able to try. And without that knowledge, like you're just going to walk up to it and be like, this looks like OAuth. Next.
Yeah, absolutely. The knowledge of gadgets and the whole process and where it might break down between all of these different third parties, vendors, sister applications, all of that sort of thing. One of the things that's very interesting from the OAuth perspective is first party OAuth applications where you don't have to approve consent, and third party applications where somebody can sign up and say, I want to use XYZ target for single sign on or whatever. That's something that I've been seeing a lot, even outside of this event, is like look very granularly at those flows and see if you can make any of them overlap.
Yeah.
Because the first party flows often don't require any sort of user interaction to release information,
right.
And the third parties do, and you can sign up for your own third party application. So
right.
That's another really cool area of interest that I've been kind of piquing my interest lately.
Yeah.
And then also. And then this is more relating to things before the event, but also in things I've been hearing about the event, looking very closely at any third-party software that is being brought into a hyper-secure environment. If you're dealing with a target that really takes security seriously, they may have a lot of their own shit on lock, and you may not be able to do much with that. But when they say, okay, I'm going to bring into, my application, this little weird feature, this little analytics tool, or this little, thing, little widget, then a lot of times they expose themselves to undue risk, and they don't do enough security code review and, threat modeling on those specific pieces of software. I'm talking to you, Joel. I'm talking to myself and I'm talking to the audience. I know you know this. But,
well, I mean, honestly, like, and just to highlight sort of like, whenever I see a company implement something from the ground up, that is like a big red flag for me, especially if it's something that's common, right? If I see somebody re-implementing,
that's true. The flip side of this is very true as well.
SAML, SSO, like any of that, that's like weird to me. I'm like, why didn't they just use some provider? Like, where did they mess up? Because did they read the RFC? Like, what, how deep did they go on this?
That's true.
And where can I find, one little crack that I can exploit?
Yeah, it's kind of like a catch-22, right? Because if you use a third party, maybe they're, let's say SAML, like you said, SAML is their shit. SAML's their thing, right? And you'd assume that their implementation would be better than your sort of off the cuff implementation. But on the other side, you don't know because you can't see the code. So exactly. it's like, okay, do I trust this or do I not trust this?
That is one of those things that draws me in all the time. I get so distracted by things because I'm like, we've talked about this. I'm a big dopamine hunter. So like whatever's like pulling my attention, I'll just like follow that.
Yeah.
And that caught me a couple times during this event. Like they were using a specific,
well, especially in a highly obfuscated environment.
Yes, they were using a specific tool for obfuscation that really was piquing my interest. And so I kept getting pulled off to the side. Like, oh, how is this working? Oh, maybe I can find a way to like systemically figure how that. And it was just like not really relevant, but it was like giving me so much dopamine that I was just like, oh, I just gotta figure out how this thing works. Like, I don't even care if there's a bug here. I just want to know how it works. Like,
oh my gosh,
and
this is why when we work together, it works really well. Because I'd be like, Joel, are you staring at that endpoint? There's no bug there, Joel. Like, there's not even a hint of a bug there. He's like, no, I need to understand it.
Right. And so even if I see SAML, like say I see like somebody's using like Okta or whatever for SAML, I'm like, maybe I can break Okta. Like,
I am SAML.
Like, maybe TCP is the issue here. I think maybe there's a fundamental HTTP core problem.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So
hey man, those sort of things exist. This is such a great tip, and I gotta shout out Matan Bear for this one because he showed it to me. And I went and read the HTML5 spec last night because I was so intrigued by this. Did you know that image, IMAGE,
is a separate element from IMG?
No. Well, it is for SVG, right? Yeah. But if you don't have it in an SVG context, the browser auto changes image to IMG.
Wait, what? On the client side?
Yeah, in the browser. So it's like, okay, how many things can we bypass with that? Because there's so many things
Everything
saying
is looking for image instead of image.
Exactly.
Right.
And they're like, oh, this is an invalid HTML tag, outside of SVG or something like that. And it's crazy. You go to your browser, you type in image, and you can even put on, source and on error handles and that sort of thing.
This is an HTML5 thing?
Yeah, it says specifically in the spec, and it's hilarious too. If you go to the spec, it says, change the tokens tag to image. And then it says and this is in the HTML body section, what you should do when you run into a specific thing. And it says, don't ask, is what it says.
Don't ask?
It literally says in quotes.
No way.
It says in quotes, don't ask. And then it was funny, because I was like, man, I got to find more of these. If there's any of these other weird little things, nothing else. But I went through and it was funny. It says, if you encounter the sarcasm tag, take a deep breath and move along, is what it says. Dude, I was like,
oh, wow.
How is the HTML5 spec
so
actually an
funny.
engaging read? Like,
wow.
It's like, this is great.
Dude,
so shout out to the HTML5 people. I laughed. I chuckled a couple times.
So funny, dude.
Yeah.
Now I kind of want to go read through it too.
It's long.
You're reminding me of the
It's
time when we were looking into that. What was it? The body tag or something? There was like that weird thing that we got
with meta or
we got
a base tag in the body tag.
Yeah.
That was super weird. Yeah, that should not work according to the spec. But that's the thing, man. I really wish Google Chrome or like Chromium would release a HTML5 as implemented by Chromium spec. So it's just a description, but it's how they've actually implemented it in Chromium, right? Because otherwise, you've got to go and read this, C code that's there.
Yeah, dude, there are so many things that on that that sort of aspect of stuff that I have to hold myself back from the dopamine hunting because when we were talking with Yusuf, right, we were talking about the browser will decide whether or not the user has clicked on something to determine whether or not an XSS should pop.
Right,
and it's how does it determine that I've clicked on something or that I've done an action? How is it actually doing that?
Yeah.
How does the browser determine that I clicked it instead of something else clicked
it? Dude, they're
or...
in for such a good episode, man. I can't even. It's going to be so good,
That's
you guys.
So good. So good.
He drops Google Chrome bugs on the pod. It's amazing.
He's just oh yeah, there's this bug I had in Chrome. He's
Sorry,
this common feature that everybody uses.
Yeah, it's such a great implementation.
Awesome stuff.
Alrighty, man. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, me too.
Let's go down and see if they're. It seems like they've paid a couple more bugs. So
nice.
Let's go. Let's cut it for now and go check in on that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's the pod, dude.
All right, that's the pod. Thanks, y'all.
Peace.